7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't dwell on this paper. This is a background paper. It provides information on the number of submissions received, the number of verbal submitters that are proposing to submit today. Bit of history about submissions received over the last 3 or 4 years, and this is the 192 for this annual plan, and LTP amendment is certainly much higher than usual. Number 9 on page 7 there sets out the procedure proposed for the submissions. Today, 8th of June, it's proposed that we hear all the verbal submissions as per the timetable. Tomorrow, Thursday the 9th, Council will consider the written and verbal submissions and staff responses to those submissions, and tomorrow on the 9th they'll also consider the staff internal submission, or during today if there's gaps, and also a resolution on the environmental flow LTP amendment tomorrow. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, we'll just proceed.
Well, should we kick off and welcome?
Chairman, you need the motion first.
Okay. You're happy to move? Okay. Someone happy to second that? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Scott. Someone happy to second that motion? Sure. Thank you, Councillor Barker. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary known. Thank you, Councillor Scott. Right, Business Hawke's Bay. Good morning and welcome. Just to give you a bit of a heads up on the process, 10 minutes. We've got a lot of people to get through today. We're pretty strict on the timing. Use your time well. If you wish us to ask you some questions, leave some time, but I'll repeat this throughout the day for others as well. But 10 minutes once you get settled in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to our submission. As you can see, we've got a number of board members with me today. We've only got 10 minutes, so we'll try and keep this short, and hopefully if you do have questions, we can answer those. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold. So, obviously BHB has made a submission to your annual planning process, and I guess normally we'd probably be here to talk to that specifically. And certainly it is important. We appreciate the support we do get from the Regional Council and the funding stream. It's important that we certainly sustain that funding over the next wee while. But I guess the timing of this matter is probably a little bit difficult given the current ongoing REDS process. And so that process is still continuing. As a board, we've had a high-level briefing on the REDS strategy and process today, but very high level. We haven't seen the particular detailed strategy itself, but we do have a couple of board members who sit on the REDS governance group. So, as I understand it, that process is still continuing and is going out for, the next stage of it is to get approval by central government and councils as part of that process. So we do know, though, from our briefings that one of the main action points to come out of the REDS process will be an evaluation of and appointment of a new model for economic development delivery in Hawke's Bay. So that's one of the key outcomes as we understand it. So that's a little later on down the track. And I guess what we wanted to really say today is. That's great. That'll obviously take a little bit of time. There's going to be a panel put in place to do that. We think our message for you today is we think Business Hawke's Bay is naturally suited to play a major part in that process. We think it's likely, although we obviously can't predetermine that, it's likely to be a partnership model with a centralised agency that will undertake and coordinate what we would say is are truly regional economic development initiatives. I mean, there's a whole lot of players in the economic development space in Hawke's Bay that do bits and pieces of economic development delivery. We've got it's a whole range of entities. We've got individual firms, we've got iwi, Māori organisations, government agencies, industry, council, and of course we've got BHB. So there's a whole lot of players in that space at the moment. So I think what we're trying to get to a point in Hawke's Bay is to have a properly mandated economic development agency that will hopefully come out of this process. So it means it's a little bit difficult for us to sit here today and talk to you about the annual plan, and our submission today on the annual plan is really business as usual. It's not about Business Hawke's Bay being the central organisation and an EDA. We hope we will be. We think we're well placed to be that agency, but that will be determined. So it's important, obviously, as part of this process, we sustain the current funding. We've obviously asked for a bit more for increasing our capacity and capability, but we acknowledge that, given we're going through this REDS process and that will take a little bit of time, there will be other things that come to pass, and we hope that Business Hawke's Bay will be that central agency that coordinates and delivers on truly regional economic delivery initiatives, and will be properly mandated and funded to do that. We've had some positive discussions with a number of stakeholders about that already, but there's a process to go through. So that's really what we wanted to set, the message we really wanted to send to you today. Open for questions, comments from any other board members, really.
Questions? Thank you, Councillor Graham.
Hawke's Bay's on a bit of a boom at the moment because of we're leveraging off commodity highs in a lot of the commodities we're dealing with. But we all know that we'll go through these cycles. I'm just wondering how much work and where do you feel you fit in looking at disruptive comment on that? I mean, so I'm going to say, what are the factors that disrupt that growth that we're having now, and whether you are involved in that? Because they're not. People tend to ride commodity highs.
I think the comment on that in relation to Stuart's comments, the status of BHP is that we're a growing organisation. We were formed out of the first REDS process, basically, that said we need something to cohesively bring together the economic development of the region, and that's where we're growing. Your support, along with other council supports, and very fundamentally driven by business support at the core and by the governance board, enables us to start to build that capacity and build that capability. The simple answer is that we're not, while keeping track of it, we're not active in finding the means to counter, let alone determine, disruptive technologies or actions. Disruptive by virtue of the word is exactly that, the unknown, the unforeseen consequences in certain cases. So what we're really wanting to see from the council today is, by way of the planning process, is ensuring that the collective support is there and can be demonstrated through BHP as a means of developing the resources to support any changes that are occurring in the Bay, with the fundamental target being growth of the Bay, growth of the economy, growth of employment, growth of security, growth of health, all of those elements that are associated with a healthy region.
And I think you've got, the REDS strategy will be out, and I know you will be briefed on it shortly. But certainly, the high level briefing we've had certainly shows that under that strategy there's going to be some implementation of actions that will try and overcome and grow the Bay in strength, so that, perhaps some of those negative aspects will be mitigated.
I think each of us in our own right are actively engaged in some way around disruptors. And in my case, the pig industry, we look very closely at biosecurity risk, food safety risk, climate risk, and all those sort of things which we can bring to the table as an organisation to help shape the thinking around Business Hawke's Bay and about future economic growth and development.
Councillor Belford.
Stuart, what I heard you basically saying is that we can disregard your request for $150,000 more while we wait out
Did I say
the
that?
outcome of the grants process. The only thing I see in your submission that indicates what you would do with that is a reference to recruiting a program manager for agribusiness. Is that basically what the incremental money would be used for if it were granted?
There are actually two new roles that we're proposing at Business Hawke's Bay. One is a partner and marketing manager. So one of our key work streams that we're looking at is strengthening the partnership model, and so we need to resource that up. And secondly is a program manager for agribusiness. We've had tremendous success through the food and beverage program management, and we see a really good opportunity to extend a similar sort of approach in the agribusiness space. Now, that could be looking at things particular, around technology, agri-tech, business development, and also agri-services. There's quite a lot of effort already going into the primary sector space in terms of primary activity. So we're very interested in the supply chain around that and the development of business around that, which is what that role's about. Just coming back to that comment before about disruptors. So at the Business Hub we have central government agencies represented, both Callaghan Innovation and NZTE, and it's through some of those central government agencies that we can actually, if you like, bring some of the thought processes around what disruption means for industries in New Zealand and in Hawke's Bay. And that's something also, part of that partnership model is how we strengthen our relationship with central government agencies and actually bring some of that thought process to this region, to the players here.
Thank you. We're just about out of time. Any final comments, guys? Stuart?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. The REDS process is kind of, we'd obviously hoped the REDS process would have been finalised earlier than it has been, and obviously this was a session to talk about the annual plan, but we just think it's important to acknowledge that process, and that will have an impact on Business Hawke's Bay.
Thank you, and thanks very much for taking the time to both submit and all of you turning up this morning. Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. What have we got? I think Adele's here, is she? Look at that. Dr. White. Kia ora. Te rangi. Ngati. Good morning. Morena and kia ora, Adele. Can I suggest you run both your presentations together, so then you have 20 minutes? But we're pretty tight for time, so that would be appreciated if that was possible. Yeah. Okay. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and councillors. My name is Te Rangi Huata. I'm the Events and Promotions Manager for Ngati, Kahungunu, Iwi. This is Narelle Huata. She's the chairperson of the Ngati Kahungunu Ruranga Arts and Culture Board, who represent our region for Kapahaka. Next to her is Adele White, the CEO for Ngati Kahungunu Iwi. And at the end is Tracy Tuimaseve, the project manager for Te Matatini. We start our presentation. Thank you, Tracy. Push the arrow. Sorry. Ngati Kahungunu Iwi and the Runanga Arts and Culture Board, who represent kapahaka interests in our tribal region, have come here today for financial support for hosting an event of national significance. 20,000 plus avid kapahaka fans from the four corners of the earth and beyond will descend on Hawke's Bay in February next year for Te Matatini. Te Matatini is the biggest event on the Māori calendar. Every 2 years, kapahaka teams vie to qualify through 14 regional competitions in New Zealand and Australia. Hawke's Bay is on track to host the biggest ever Te Matatini, with 48 teams coming here to compete. Te Matatini is a phenomena unlike any other. It's the only time in one's life that you see pride for all to see in a person's tribe, hapu, marae, kapahaka team, family and friends, all merged inside one person, multiplied by thousands. Teams will raise $100,000+ to come here to compete, and individuals will save all year and come here to spend, to indulge locally on food, shopping and having a good time like it's Christmas. It's amazing to witness positivity in action. In Christchurch last year, Ngati and their community did a wonderful job in hosting 45 teams, and many visitors said it was the best yet. I volunteered there for the week, and like many others, experienced true southern hospitality. Ngati iwi contributed over $1 million and said the impact on their iwi members and region was worth every cent. The Mayor of Christchurch, Leanne Dalziel, said that Te Matatini was bigger economically for the region than the Rugby World Cup and the Cricket World Cup. Revenue to the region was $27 million. Te Matatini believes that revenue will continue to grow with increased sales in Hawke's Bay. Te Matatini will be, without doubt, the biggest event Hawke's Bay will host in this decade. The Kahungunu Ruranga Arts and Culture Board are working with Te Matatini to manage the event. They are coordinating a volunteer workforce of 300 plus. So far, 150 people have signed up, with many from Wairoa and Central Hawke's Bay. Ngati Kahungunu Inc. will be managing a series of free-to-the-public Hawke's Bay-wide events that will occur in the lead-up to Te Matatini, during and after. We will host a Wakahaurua festival for double-hull voyaging craft from Aotearoa and Pacific nations, starting a week before Te Matatini begins. This occasion reinforces our cultural roots and communal ties to an area Captain Cook described as the most extensive nation on earth. We will host the Taniwha Dragon Expo, an economic development conference that builds on earlier trade contacts between China and Māori businesses begun in 2010 when Sir Peter Sharples, then Minister of Māori Development, led a delegation of Māori business leaders to the World Expo in Shanghai. Our expo will take place a few days before Te Matatini, and Chinese, Pacific Nation, iwi, New Zealand and Hawke's Bay industry leaders will be invited to join us. Hospitality is an integral part of Ngati Kahungunu and indeed Hawke's Bay culture. We will host a welcome ceremony at McLean Park for thousands to witness, including visiting world leaders, dignitaries, Te Matatini teams and the general public. Napier Council is supporting this occasion. The Waka Festival, exhibitions and a free community extravaganza with fireworks on Marine Parade at the new skate park that opens in December. Ngati Kahungunu will provide kai to the pōwhiri, all hosting marae and volunteers. Hawke's Bay food producers and farms are planning their planting and grazing seasons right now for seafood, vegetables, fruit, meat and produce as their contribution. We are grateful to the Hastings District Council, alongside a cluster of funding partners in leading Whakaute, a $1.2 million facilities development project to support 16 heretaunga marae to be ready to host our visitors. Te Matatini will take place at the Hawke's Bay Sports Park, and again, Hastings District Council staff are working closely with us and Te Matatini organisers to ensure the event is safe, welcoming and successful. The event is entirely alcohol-free, smoke-free and drug-free. We plan to ban the sale of water in plastic bottles and provide free water for all. We will divert over 80% of the event's waste from the landfill, a target we already achieve at our own annual Waitangi Day and Matariki events. And we will springboard a zero waste plan for our 90 marae starting in the next few months. Like you, our organisation wants to build strong partnerships to achieve common goals. And we, like you, want to see a region with a vibrant community, a prosperous economy, a clean and healthy environment now and for future generations. In the Māori world, Ngati Kahungunu is renowned for our hospitality and kindness of heart. Amongst all New Zealanders, Hawke's Bay has a positive persona due to our people, our place, our foods and our climate. This morning we have come to the Regional Council to seek your support and resources to help us mount Te Matatini. We can't do this on our own. We need all the help we can get. For most of our Hawke's Bay community, supporting Te Matatini is a big ask. This event is unknown by the majority of our community. It's not in the mainstream and is not part of popular culture, but it is a part of our New Zealand culture. One of New Zealand's great poets, Alan Kurnow, in his poem, Landfill in Unknown Seas, said, "Simply by sailing in a new direction, your world becomes enlarged." Te Matatini is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a phenomena that will not occur here for another 24 years. And we want you to join us as our regional partner to host the biggest kapa haka event ever. Our Hawke's Bay regional community experience will become enlarged and be better for it. Thank you.
Kia ora. Questions? I have one to kick off, actually, just in regard to, and I'm just hovering over this button because I want to push it again, get another 10 minutes going before the alarm goes off. Hang on, here we go. Bear with me. You talked about a whole lot of produce, etc., and the work being done. Is that included in the, the $2 million you're trying to raise, or is that actually comes in as koha on top of that?
That's a koha on top of that.
Okay, that clears it up for me. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, Tarangi, what a wonderful presentation. Well done. My question is, in Christchurch they've got 20,000. We're more central and surrounded by a greater population. Do you think we'll get closer to 30,000, or are you thinking, where do you think the figure will be, your best guess?
Around.
Kia ora koutou. Yes, definitely, because we are central, and the figures that Tarangi gave were down in the South Island, so we do estimate that numbers will increase, and looking closer to 30,000 throughout the whole festival.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Harter, for an inspiring introduction to Te Matatini. You referred to Ngāi Tahu iwi as contributing $1 million, but you didn't cover what other funding sources, such as the councils, did. Are you aware of which councils contributed there and what? And can you tell me how many councils you're approaching in Hawke's Bay?
In Christchurch, the Christchurch council gave $500,000,
City Council.
City Council, in cash and in kind and in services. Your equivalent, Environment Canterbury, I don't know the exact figures that they gave, but it was quite considerable. And they looked after a lot of the resources like transport, buses, water to the site, and also power.
Thank you. Councillor.
Just in terms of who we're approaching locally, Hastings City Council have already put provisions in their annual plan. We're approaching Napier City Council and yourself. With Wairoa and CHB being smaller councils, we didn't think to approach them, but we did think as Hawke's Bay Regional Council covers the district that it'll be more sensible to approach you guys. But we very much consider this a Kahungunu wide event, so we have people participating from Wairoa to Wairarapa. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Councillor Dick.
Well done and good luck with your project. Are you going to achieve any television revenues?
The largest percentage of the media is going to be controlled by the national Te Matatini team, and so all revenues and costs will be taken care of by the national team.
Okay, so you don't benefit from that?
No.
Councillor Barker.
We're concentrating on what people pay for, but these things run by people's goodwill and effort and so on. How many volunteers and other people would be contributing to this for which there will be no pay? They do it because they believe in it, they support it. And do you have any estimate of how many millions and millions of dollars that would be?
Around.
If we look at the pōwhiri that we're doing for the Te Matatini to welcome all the visitors, we're aiming at engaging with 2,000 plus to participate in the pōwhiri. That's inclusive of all the kaihaka that participate at our regional competitions and inclusive of all the schools as well, secondary, primary schools. So if we were to put a figure on that, you're looking at least a minimum of 150 per person. However, that's a figure that we look at. A lot of it is in-kind support by our own people. Within the voluntary workforce, we are aiming to engage with 500 people to help support the events over the season. That's right.
Kia ora. Just, Dr. White, you don't wish to add anything in regard to the other part of the submission, which was the environmental flows? Here?
Oh, no.
Okay, you're fine with that. Any questions on that submission? The submission on, there was two parts to this. One was the environmental flows as well, and I've suggested they put them both together so we have more time. Yeah.
Aroha mai, when we said you were going to put the time together, we thought we were talking about the Runa Arts and Culture Board and the Ngati Kahungunu iwi time slots for Matatini.
Okay.
Because I don't believe we actually said that we were going to speak to our submission on flows.
Okay,
so
no,
apologies, I haven't prepared anything. But if
apologies.
anyone does have a question, maybe see me a little bit afterwards. And
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so any further questions on Matatini? Because it is an important part of our discussions over the next day when we set our rate, etc. So any further questions? Any further comments from you guys? Tarangi, good to see you again. Haven't seen you before.
Yes, you too, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to give apologies for Rangi Manuel. He just couldn't make it out of Wairoa this morning, but he's the chairman of the Ngati Kahungunu Asset Holding Company. He wanted to be here today, but maybe in closing, Adele, if you could just say a few words to that effect.
So again, just reiterating the apologies from Rangi Manuel, who's the chair, and also from the chairman of Ngati Kahungunu iwi, Ngā Hiwi as well, who also couldn't be here this morning, but sends their fond regard. So in terms of the asset holding company, they're right in behind this initiative. It has many gains for the region, both economically, socially, culturally, and even environmentally with our waste-free initiatives. So if there are any questions or any queries, yeah, we'll be happy to answer any of those as we go through. But we definitely see this as a very positive initiative for the whole of the Hawke's Bay region, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. So we do urge the council to get in behind this as much as you can, in any way that you can, to make this a successful event for us all. And we thank you very much for your time with us this morning. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Oh, thank you very much. And as I say, we'll be deliberating tomorrow. It's been advertised at 9, but actually the hearing will recommence at 11 tomorrow morning. Kia ora, Des. You got to say good day to the rock stars when they come in, you know. Kia ora. Okay.